We all love the words as college football fans. Game week. And for Miami, it's a big one. Not easing into the season this time around. The Canes go on the road to take on a nemesis. Not that nemesis in conference, but the other nemesis in state that they see, every 5 or 10 years. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football, Miami Live, featuring, of course, and the guy that makes it all go for us. Otherwise, we don't have a show. It's Cam Underwood from State of the U. And yes, 52-15. Roughly, we wait about 35, 36, 37 weeks, something in that range, to finally see football on the field. And here we go. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern from the Swamp.
Yeah, man. Good to see you guys. We are here. We have made it through the interminable college football offseason, and we are back. This is a game week. And we are ready. We do, only to Mark's lead in, only see Florida once every blue moon, but that's because that team is the one who has ducked us. Steve Spurrier said it on a podcast in public this week that other coaches in the SEC went to him back in the day after they added Arkansas and South Carolina and said, maybe you don't want to play Miami every year. And you're legally obligated to play Florida State. So maybe that make it a lot easier. And this is like, back in 87, when Miami was rolling. And he said, you know what? Actually taking them off the schedule is a great idea. So, hey, don't be mad at me for saying Steve Spurrier done told y'all. They didn't want the smoke, right? But, hey, we're ready. I'm already fired up. It's football season, guys. And we're already rolling. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see what this team is going to look like. And I'm excited for Saturday at 3:30 as the Stormtroopers wearing all white. Hilarious, by the way. University of Florida has been telling all of their fans, wear white, wear white, wear white. It's going to be a whiteout because it's going to be in the middle of the day. And as the away team, you usually wear white jerseys. So we said, go ahead, bruh. Drip, drip, top to bottom, helmet, jerseys, pants, socks, shoes, all white Stormtrooper look. I love it. I love it.
I like that all white look on a football field. I like it.
Clean, right?
I like it.
But specifically, they were trying to kind of abscond the white. And I'm like, I'm not a Miami Heat fan. I'm from Detroit. You all know this. But, like, that's been their iconic thing through the playoffs is the whiteout and everything. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got that. And we're going to wear it on our jerseys. It just – little things like that, that's what perpetuates rivalries. I love it.
As we prepare for our guest media member from the Florida side to jump on in, I'll lead it in this way. Cam, you saw your arch rival sleepwalk into the season overseas, and I'm sure you took much joy in that as they got
joy. Absolutely
taken down by a late field goal. And but this just doesn't seem like this could possibly happen to Miami. It's just too much bad blood. Got a rival, got an SEC team. It's a road game that they could not possibly be taken off guard leading into this one.
No, they have our full attention. Every game has to be the most important game. Every snap has to be the most important snap. That's how you build a season of the kind of success that I believe is in front of Miami. It's not, okay, hey, we're looking down the line to homecoming. No. This play right here, this game right here. And again, like, this is a team that, like, I mean, there's bad blood on both sides. Like, they don't like us, and I can't stand them. So, like, if you're not dialed in for a team that you hate, what are you going to be dialed in? You know what I mean? So, like, and I also just, to continue to dance on the grave of Florida State a little bit from that game, I don't even think that they overlooked Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had a 97% post-game win expectancy. Georgia Tech, save for like a couple of little flubs here and there, they dominated that game. It wasn't close, but they weren't able to finish a couple drives and things like that. And that's what made the score closer. But if you look across the board, Georgia Tech was clearly, and by exponential measures, the best team on that field. So I just wanted to say that for the record. And I don't think it's for lack of trying or caring by Florida State, What I will say, and I know we're going to bring on whoever you have as the guest for today. Also, I've been right the entire time about how they are building their program in Tallahassee. Right? I told y'all it was mercenary squad for a couple of years. That's not sustainable when you're not having a foundation of high school recruiting and then sprinkling the seasoning of veteran players on top. I told you about DJ Ukulele. Now, I told you everything that you saw. I told you. And last week I told you that Pete Thamel and others were saying that Florida State has the best defensive line in the country. And I said, they got to play more than 4 guys, right? And then he tried to sprinkle it in on the pregame and said, "Oh, they have the best starting defensive line in the country." Who? What? Where did you? We need to find back from when Mark and I, when we were kids. Remember when somebody would go missing and they put their face on the side of a milk carton? We need to find some milk cartons for this supposed incredible defensive line, the best in the country defensive line. Not even good, not even great, not best in the country starting defensive line. They got dog walked. Now I'm not saying that they don't have talent because they clearly do. Daryl Jackson. We were telling you that Daryl Jackson was one of those dudes when he was at Miami, and everybody said, "No, you're being a homer." Now he's on the Bruce Feldman freaks list for being an incredible athlete. Patrick Payton, we've seen him be very good. Marvin Jones Jr. has the size and pedigree because he went to Georgia as a high school recruit. We've seen all those things. But what we didn't see was that it coalesced together into a demonstrably good football team on the field. And I've been telling y'all this for years. And I also told you in the same way that Jameis Winston covered up for Jimbo Fisher. Well, Jameis Winston and Dalvin Cook, 4 and 5. Without those dudes, Jimbo Fisher was an 8 and 4 coach. I said it then when they were winning championships and y'all all coming at me. And then after those guys left, that was proven to be true. I told you the same thing about Jordan Travis. It's not that he was good. It's that he was athletic and able to escape and extend plays, and you can't cover for 7 seconds. That was what made him good. And without him, you were going to see those running lanes change for the running backs because you do not have to account for the quarterback in the same kind of way. That passing game, those guys are not going to be butt naked wide open. You had that 7-foot wide receiver where you just threw it up there last year. I told y'all all that shit, and it came true in the first fucking game of the season. So I'm saying that with the passion, 10 toes down with my whole chest. Y'all need to listen to me because I'm motherfucking right.
We got a clip for the FSU channel. I love it.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what James has to say to that. I can't wait. Call you know I'll be here at the crib getting ready. Call me, text my phone after you play that, and he want to say something to me. Come any week. It don't even gotta be Florida State week. I'm ready for it.
You ready for this, Dave? We threw Dave in the lion's den here. We got David Soderquist with High Top Sports talking some Gators. David, we appreciate you being here.
I was about to say, there's a lot of explosions going on behind the scenes over here, isn't there?
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, man, I need all the drops. See, hey, it is what it is. But yeah, good to see you, Dave. Nice to meet you.
You got your guy hyped up over here.
I come in hyped up, baby. Like, hey, this is, when I went to the University of Miami, I'm from Detroit, as you heard, but when I came to Miami, I didn't just wear it. I took it down to the bones. I took it to the blood. I bleed this orange and green. So, hey, I know that people want to say, that we are too braggadocious and loud and the bravado, whatever. That's who we are. If they hating, let them hate and watch the money pile up. Let's go.
I know you said we, David. I know you didn't mean we. It's all Cam. That's all Cam.
Hey, it's all part of the show, man. It's all part of the show. You got to get some energy in here. You know what I'm saying?
No, always, man.
All right, Dave. Well, I'll tee it up this way, and then I'll let you and Cam mix it up with the X's and O's. If Miami had Florida's schedule and Florida had Miami's schedule, I think people would look at this game differently. And they shouldn't look at this game differently because they're not playing the rest of the season. We're not playing November on Saturday. We're playing the 2 squads that will line up on Saturday. A narrative is not being played on Saturday about the entire season and their trajectory as programs, or the likelihood that the coach won't be there at the end of the season, or the chances that they have to compete for conference championships. None of that is being played out on Saturday. It's about who can man it up the best on Saturday.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start here. But yeah, I mean, like when you look at it, of course, Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier pretty much almost have the same record. I think Mario Cristobal has one more win than Billy Napier. Obviously, Billy Napier's had to face a very, very tough schedule. Obviously, Dan Mullen, the coach before him, did not recruit that well. Billy Napier comes in, has to kind of clean up a little bit of a mess on top of playing a harder SEC schedule, which is understandable. But at the same time, Florida fans are not patient. They want wins, and they want wins right away. You lose, you win 6 games in the first year. You go to a bowl game, you get smacked around. A lot of people opt out, and everybody's okay with that. It's your first year. It's you're getting to your bump year, and then your bump year, you kind of lose a lot of recruits to Miami, and you still come out with a pretty decent class, 2023. And fans are expecting a little bit more, right? Okay, maybe he can get to 7 and he can get to 8, and then you have the Arkansas game where you get the penalty, you lose the game by like probably if you would have not got that penalty, that 5-yard penalty probably goes through the arches. You win the Arkansas game. A lot of fans say that game shouldn't have even been close anyway. Then you go into in Missouri, a game where you're at a 4th and 17 and you have them on the ropes, and it's a top 10 team, close to top 10 team, and you let them slide on a 4th and 17, and now you're sitting here with 5 wins. You could have had 7, possibly 8 on the schedule. So a lot of Florida fans are saying, "Hey, we're like right there," but the play calling and some of these miscues are what costing you these close games. So I think now Florida, having the best defense last year, having defenses ranked in the 120s, bringing in a new strength and conditioning coach, bringing in Ron Roberts from Auburn, who flipped their defense around. I mean, Florida, they averaged 28.4 points per game last year. Probably with a good defense, they could average well over 30. I think, Ron Roberts coming in, some of the guys we got from the transfer portal, I think that there's hope from what we've heard in camps and what we've heard in practices for some of the inside guys I know, think that this defense is going to be a lot better. How much better, I think, is the key when they come to play Miami into town week 1. And look, I said this before, everybody's worried, okay, well, what about the offensive line here? I'm not really too worried about the offensive line. Graham Mertz, his numbers under pressure was 2nd in the SEC. It was pretty top 5. I think it was top 10 nationally under pressure. I think more it relies on Florida's defensive line and their ability to get pressure on Miami's offensive line. And I think that's what's going to really decide whether, Florida wins this game or not. I think if Miami gets the run game going and Florida cannot stop him, and then Cam Ward can go to town, I think Florida could lose this game. So I think the game in game 1 relies more on the defensive line for Florida than the offensive line. I'm pretty confident in Graham Mertz. He played pretty well last year. He missed 1.5 games, could have threw for over 3,000 yards, averaged about 8 yards per attempt. I'm not too worried about Graham Mertz getting under a lot of duress. He's been under duress his whole career. We've never, ever had a good offensive line at Florida ever since 2018. And then you have to go back to maybe 2012 to find a good offensive line from Florida. So I think that matchup right there is what's really going to decide the game for game 1.
So let me just go back, because I think, and I get it, you're a Florida Gator person, and that's really putting lipstick on a pig, man. That's really a generous viewing of the last couple of years. I mean, like, if you go back to 2022, y'all lost to Vanderbilt, my guy.
Yeah, we
had
what I mean? Like, Anthony Richardson, a quarterback who wasn't the most quarterback and wasn't the best passer at all. I mean everybody could see that. I mean, he got drafted based on his athletic ability, not his passing ability.
Is there? I mean, like, put the reasons out there and say whatever. I wanted to go to Vanderbilt and ended up not going to and coming to Miami. I don't really give anything, I don't care what the it's because, well, yeah, he wasn't that great or da.
Well, I don't know what happened 2 years ago.
Man, you know what I mean? But like, it just and then just like last, like, okay, like there were some close games and everything, but like, if there were, I mean, like, look, Miami takes a knee against Georgia Tech. You have one game or one play here, one play there. You're talking about a 10-win season, which is kind of the same kind of a thing. And like, I just want to go on record that I get it that that's your squad and everything. That's a very, very generous retelling of the path here.
Well, that's a very generous schedule you guys have had in the ACC too.
But I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that. But the difference is I'm not saying the counterfactual. I'm not saying that it wasn't and like and everything. So like that's where I come from with it. I'm interested to see why, like, so the things that I took away from your opening thing, and I'm just going to start with the offense, for the Florida Gator offense. If you have not had a good offensive line since 2018, as you put it, and I do think that Miami has a top 5 cadre of defensive linemen that probably goes 10, 11 deep, including 6 transfers that are adding into this group, and Ruben Bain and Jason Taylor, Hall of Famer, coaching them up. And we've seen the development of multiple players along this group. How are you not the least bit concerned about that part of the ball? Or part of the game, because that's what I heard. Maybe I heard something different, but I'm just I don't understand how those two things work. How you've never had a good offensive line. Miami has a stacked defensive line group, and that's not a thing that gives you any pause.
Well, I already told you I had confidence in Graham Mertz under pressure, and obviously we don't know how the offensive line is going to perform this year. I mean, you've got a returning Jake Slaughter. You also have a returning Austin Barber, who had really good accolades before the season. You got Najee Harris, Damian George, who's moved now to right guard from right tackle. He wasn't a tackle at all. And now I guess they just released the depth charts of Cam Waits that Billy Napier brought over from Louisiana Lafayette. It's going to be starting on that right side too. So there is a little bit of question marks when it comes to the offensive line. But I think when you stack 3 of the offensive linemen, especially on the left side from the center, I think you feel pretty confident. I think on the right side is where you have a little bit of question marks in Florida. I mean, look, if your offensive line's getting dominated over there on that right side, you have all the speed in the world from the wide receivers to dunk one off into the flats and have them go up the field. And I think that is the ultimate plan to counteract any kind of pressure. And again, as I said, Graham Mertz's numbers under pressure, you can look it up on any site, has been phenomenal. And I'm very confident if Graham Mertz gets pressured this game, he will be able to pull it off.
Okay, cool. How much are we going to see DJ Lagway?
I think maybe you might see 5 to 6, maybe 7 snaps with DJ Lagway. I think if you're struggling in the run game, I think putting in Lagway adds a different dynamic to the run game. But I don't know if there would be any scenario where DJ Lagway plays a lot of snaps in this game, unless something was to happen to Graham Mertz, or if he got hurt, had to come out of the game for a second. Then you're relying on a true freshman that's a 5-star caliber quarterback. So I would assume maybe if Graham Mertz is, you probably have about 6, 7 snaps with him, maybe 8, if that.
Is that, in your mind, is that wise? Or, because to me, he's the player in your program that gives me pause, that like makes me say, well, hold on. This kid is different. This kid is special. This kid is dangerous. I know he's a true freshman and was 18 years old and everything. But like, as I'm looking there, like, I think Graham Mertz is fine, but like, I think DJ Lagway is special. So I say that to say, do you think that only playing him that number of projecting that he'll only play, 5 to 8 snaps is the smart move for this game? Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on the scenarios. Like I said, if you're not getting a good run game going, or if you maybe want to throw in a trick run play in the end zone, maybe score, something like that, you could do a gimmick play with him or anything that you've practiced. But I would expect him to play in the game somewhat. But as I said, I do not expect him to play most of the game unless you have a very, very struggling quarterback or he gets hurt. I wouldn't expect him to throw Lagway out there just as a true freshman. Now, if we're talking sophomore, junior, okay, that's different. But right now, true freshman entered into the program. But the skill level is high. The talent level is high there, but he's proven nothing in the college world yet. So it depends. It depends on how confident Billy Napier and the staff are, what they've seen in practice. Maybe you see a little bit more snaps from him, but I'm contemplating maybe 6 to 7, maybe to 8 snaps. You might see more, though.
Okay. You talked about the defense and everything. So like, you're the University of Florida. We're the University of Miami. There are athletes everywhere. Who are a couple of guys on defense that we should be on the lookout for to potentially, make some positive game-changing plays for the Gators against Miami?
Well, I think you have to look at Joey Slackman there on the defensive line as well, coming in from UPenn. Obviously had good PFF grades. coming from the Ivy League, a lot of those Ivy League guys have turned out to be good NFL players. I think he's got a lot of quickness, a lot of size, a lot of burst. I also think Grayson Howard, Pup Howard, coming over from South Carolina, had a really good year in his first year at South Carolina. You match him up with Shamar James. I think that's a good 1-2 combo in that linebacker room. I mean, you go last year when Shamar James went down the Georgia game. I mean, those linebackers look lost. And before that game, I mean, you were playing really well at linebacker. You were able to stop the run pretty well. I think those two guys up front will really, I guess just stifle the run a little bit. Hopefully, let's hope in this week 1 game that they do, or at least it's an even keeled matchup. I also like Devin Moore. There's a guy that he's been hurt, quite frankly, but every time Devin Moore has been in the game, he's made plays, he's gotten picks, he's passed defended, he's defended passes. And it also, you have Jordan Castell in his second year, who's at a safety. He's been playing really well, played really well his freshman year right at the beginning. He's been playing well in practice too. He had a really good spy on a pick six in practice that actually I think Florida threw out the film on that. So I think those are the guys you look at defensively for Florida that will probably be the guys that make most of the impacts on defense. And you also get Jason Marshall returning, but he didn't have the best year last year. I think maybe it was part of due to we've had really, really bad problems at safety, and we shored that up with Asa Turner and some of the other guys that have come in from the transfer portal. I think that position there is pretty well rounded with experience. So I think he'll have a little bit more safety help there as well. So I think when it comes to backfield defense and all of that, it really relies on the defensive line. I mean, Florida last year struggled to get pressure. They return a lot. They brought in a lot of talent from the portal. So I'm curious to see whether Florida can get some push in this game against this Miami offensive line that's recruited pretty well at that position.
No, true story. In terms of scheme, because I haven't really dove into it, what kind of staples on defense are the things that you're going to rely on or try to? I mean, obviously not for this game plan, but overall, like, what are the things that you do on defense that we should be on the lookout for?
We like to sit back our safeties a lot. I mean, there are times where, especially with Austin Armstrong last year, that they like to blitz a lot, and Todd Grantham did that a lot, and a lot of Florida Gator fans hated that. I think blitzing a lot gives your backfield up a lot on certain plays. I think they're going to sit back a little bit more this year with Ron Roberts. They're going to be a little bit more cautious there in the backfield. I think they'll dial up some blitzes, but for the most part, I think they're. I don't know if it's going to be probably cover 1, cover 2, somewhere back there. But I think with Ron Roberts entering in, and you saw what he kind of did with Auburn's defense and how they played defense there. I think you're going to get a little bit of mixture of Austin Armstrong and Ron Roberts for that defense.
Okay. In terms of, so I know you mentioned like a couple of guys at linebacker, a couple of guys at in the defensive backfield. Xavier Restrepo was pretty much always open from the slot.
Yeah.
We hated it
I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
Right, I mean, dude, it was funny because we're like, oh my God, why is Tyler Van Dyke always throwing the 7? And the more you look, you're like, 7's open. So what kind of, in that second level, so like your overhang defenders, your kind of like slot, defensive backs or things, like what kind of things do you anticipate Florida doing to try to take away some of the routes that Restrepo runs really well and really often that gets him into that open space in the middle of the field?
Well, I think you're going to have to maybe stick somebody like a Sharif Denson on him at nickel there. But I also think, man, like you're going to have to double team this guy probably. I mean, this guy had 1,100 yards almost last year in the ACC, made first all ACC team. I mean, this guy is one of the main guys that I have that's listed as one of the guys to worry about on Miami's side. Obviously, that's nothing that any true fan would know that because
Right.
Restrepo, he may not be the tallest receiver, may not be the quickest, but the dude knows how to get open and he knows how to get the ball. And that's really what you want out of a wide receiver. So, yeah, I mean, if Florida's struggling to cover Restrepo, I'd expect a double team. And then that's what opens up Sam Brown and some of the other receivers that you have too. So I think that is what's going to put a little bit of pressure on Florida's defensive backfield. I mean, you look at the wide receivers in this game. I mean, Florida, you got DK he's a 4-4 guy. You got Badger, a 4-4 guy. You got Eugene, a 4-3 guy. I mean, it's going to be just as difficult for Miami to guard some of these wide receivers as it is for Florida. And I'm really curious to see which matchup wins that certain scenario. I mean, there's so many good pieces on both of these teams, and that's why the spread's 2.5. I mean, most experts I talk to, if you're a Florida guy, you're going to pick Florida. If you're a Miami guy, you're going to pick Miami, just because, usually when those spreads are close, you usually put on like the orange and blue glasses or the orange and green glasses and just go with your team, right? So I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close matchup. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter and who survives that fourth quarter, who buzzes out. And I mean, that's why the spread is the way that it is. So I think we get the home field advantage. I think we win, but I'm pretty sure you're a Miami guy. You're going to think you win. So, I mean,
I just think that Miami's a better team. Like, I just do. It could be here, there, or on the moon. I just think that Miami is a better team. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a blowout, but I mean, it could be played in a neutral site. It could be played, like I said, in any venue. I think that the current iteration of Miami versus current iteration of Florida is a better squad. And so I'm just leaning on that, kind of feeling ethos and success, looking at some of the strengths and weaknesses. But there have been times, it was like 3 years or 4 years ago now, when we beat Florida State by 6 touchdowns. Yeah. And I was like, hey, that's one where going into the week, I was easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. You know what I mean? Like we're writing troll stuff on the website. I'm just like, because there was no chance that squad wearing garnet and gold was going to be anywhere near competitive.
Yeah. Well, the way they're looking, you might beat them by 6 touchdowns again this year.
I don't know that they're that bad, but what I do think going into this game is that, and I was going to make the comparison, I do not believe that the disparity between our programs is the same measure as it was that time, when we beat Florida State by 6 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns. Right, yeah. So I think it is closer. I think, it will be, I could see, if you get a turnover, if a team gets a turnover in a short field and a cheap score, that, the score line could be a little bit expanded from what you would otherwise think. But
do you worry about Ward turning over the ball?
A little bit. Cam Ward has been a little fast and loose with the ball. He is, an improviser, an extender of plays. So he'll step up and around, and he'll be just running there and leaving the ball kind of just out there. And we've seen at his other stops at Incarnate Word and at Washington State, where he had to kind of increase that risk profile because his talent was greater than the talent around him. But in doing so and taking those risks, we've seen the turnovers happen. We've seen and the interceptions are going to, quarterbacks throw interceptions, but his interception rate was very low. It's when you add the fumbles on top, and especially for the most part, when you think of just the hidden yardage gain, if I throw a interception down here, you might get a 10, 15 yard return, fine, whatever. I fumble the ball where we are and I'm behind the line of scrimmage and it's going, you know what I mean? That can be such a massive quick change. So I'm hopeful that, he stays within himself. He does the things that makes him special, makes him one of the top 5 returning quarterbacks in the country, that he does extend plays and, he has that special sauce, and I want to see that special sauce. But maybe a little bit more on the ball security side, Cameron, I would appreciate that. It would keep my heart rate and my blood pressure down through Saturday's game more than that.
So let me size it up this way with the 2 QBs. Cam Ward higher ceiling, Graham Mertz higher floor, correct?
I would say Graham Mertz more efficient. You get more of the security and efficientness, and I guess I'm looking for the word. You get more progression, you get safer throws with Graham Mertz. Obviously, he's trying to throw it more downfield, or at least that's what they say. But I think you get a more safer, secure quarterback, more reliable out of Graham Mertz. But also with Cam Ward, you get more risk versus reward. If he throws it deep, maybe it is a turnover, or maybe it's a touchdown and it gets taken to the house. I kind of when I look at Cam Ward, and I'm not comparing him to this quarterback, like he's going to play like him or anything like that, but he reminds me of Brett Favre. Brett Favre took a lot of risks, threw a lot of picks, but he still won a lot of games. So, I mean, it's you get more risk reward at a Cam Ward, but then you get more safe, secure efficiency down the field with Graham Mertz.
So, with all due respect to Graham Mertz's ability, as you pointed out statistically, to throw well against a pass rush, and that's admirable. Anytime a quarterback can come through with guys in his face and throwing them on the ground, I always think that that's a great mark of a leader and a quarterback to be able to throw under duress. However, nobody has ever in the history of the sport been able to throw the ball well on their backside. And so if the Miami defensive line comes to play, and if the Florida offensive line is not what it needs to be, then you're balancing the Graham Mertz efficiency, trying to take advantage of what at least last year and probably projects to be the weakest position unit on the Miami team in the secondary, trying to balance out that, do we get too pass happy versus protecting our quarterback and making sure he's not taking 7-step drops against a pretty vaunted defensive line.
I mean, like, look, to interject, like, you know, Cam Ward has thrown 16 interceptions in 2 years on 982 throws. That's 1.6%. You know, so like, it's not, I think the real thing of his turnover issues were the fumbles. The interceptions, I think, are at an acceptable rate when you have 23-9 his first year at Wazoo, and then 25-7 touchdowns, interceptions. Like, he's not really just willy-nilly putting the ball in harm's way. When the fumbles would happen, that's when you get to the mid, teens in terms of turnovers and things like that. But I would say a comparable floor for both, because we've seen, again, Cam Ward do it, small schools, and with, again, having the talent, being the top of Mount Everest. Like, he is the guy, he is the superstar on those teams. And it's just like, I'm playing with a bunch of dudes who basically were around Puyallup, Washington, playing pickup. You know what I mean? And doing the numbers that he did. The ceiling is very much so higher. But yeah, I mean, hey, Graham Mertz has been, he's like a Swiss clock. He's just been tick-tock consistent. He's been very just, hey, I could try to throw that, but I'm going to hit this. That's an intermediate or a shorter kind of a throw, put it on the guys. Has, great athletic talent, and around him at Florida. So, hey, I would rather be sure that I hit Eugene Wilson on this 5-yard little wiggle route and let him go, as opposed to taking the chance and throwing it deep. But to Mark's point, the part of the one unit that really gives me great concern in this game is Miami's secondary, because we might have dudes, and like, we've gotten recruits in, but we don't have returning dudes. We don't have a Tyreek Stevenson going to be a second-team All-American and a second-round draft pick. We don't got James Williams, who made his NFL team switching to linebacker from safety like he should have at 16 years old, but he didn't want to listen to me and Bud Elliott and everybody else who told him that he was a linebacker or whatever. And first-team All-American Cam Kinchin's coming back. We don't have that. Now, we do have Michelle Powell, who was played on a national championship game appearing in Washington, coming in and playing slot safety. We do have, Daryl Porter Jr. actually, low-key, I think, was underrated last year. Like, team started throwing other ways, and like, his numbers weren't great because like half that field you're not throwing over at number 2. Is that going to be the case in this game? I'm not really sure. Like, I definitely have questions at corner. I definitely have questions at safety. So if there is time and the ability for Mertz to continue to be as consistently accurate with both his decisions, which is key, because we saw from Tyler Van Dyke, decisions are part of throws, So with his decision-making and with his accuracy, that is something that gives me slight pause. And also referencing back to the last time we played, y'all, the 2 touchdowns that you had were long plays on broken tackles. Kadarius Toney up the sideline. I forget who the running back was, but like, if we make tackles, we win that game in those 2 plays. But we didn't, and I just say that to put that out there. Like, I know, I do believe that Miami is a better team than Florida at current, but I'm not going to say that there are not those kinds of athletes. And if you take a bad angle, if you don't follow through with your wrapping up and you drive your legs and like finish tackles, like we saw in the last game, what can happen. So hopefully, we're just dialed in on all the parts and pieces. But yeah, the secondary, I would say across everything, I would either put it to a push or advantage Miami, with the exception of the secondary. That is a thing that, like, yeah, if there's a concern, that's the concern.
Dave, unless Cam's got anything else, I got one more thing for you.
Go ahead.
We wait forever for college football to get back on the scene, and so everybody gets excited. You know, there are people at Wake Forest that are excited, and Purdue and places like that, regardless of how bad your team is. You know, shoot, the Chicago White Sox I just saw lost their 100th game quicker than anybody since like 1900. They got 31 wins. They had fans in March that thought they were going to win the pennant. Everybody just gets optimistic this time of year. However, for as talented, and this is obviously not a vintage Florida team by any stretch, but it's still a team that's got talent that if you played in the Big 12 or somewhere else, you'd have a better outlook. But again, I have never heard so much talk, and it's warranted, about a schedule than what Florida has to face this year. Does it kind of damper and weigh down that optimism coming into a season when you look at that schedule and just think, man, to get through that thing and to try to reach some kind of goal here, and what is that? And because you wait so long for the season, what is your mindset personally, and what you can gauge from the Florida fan base about what to realistically but optimistically be able to expect this season?
Yeah, realistically, I mean, from what I hear from Florida fans, it's a mixed bag. Really, there's ones that say, "Oh, we hope for 9-3." There's ones that say 6-6. There's ones that say 7-5. I mean,
I saw that, Cam.
Yeah,
9-3.
Wow. Yeah. I'm not believing in 9-3 yet, but I mean, like, you look at the schedule, and obviously when you break it down, I mean, there's a lot of new faces at quarterback through that schedule. I mean, Cam Ward's probably going to be the tougher way. I mean, Nico, I haven't seen much from Nico at Tennessee. If I see more as the season goes on, then I'll make a good assessment of like where Tennessee's at. And you're playing them you're playing them at home too, so it's going to be a pretty hostile environment when you go play Tennessee. But I mean, you look at the beginning of that schedule, a lot of new quarterbacks, a lot of new faces: Mississippi State, Tennessee, UCF. I mean, you lost to KJ Jefferson last year, and UCF has more talent, but I mean, Florida, they brought in a lot more talent. They're more experienced. A lot of optimism is coming out of the University of Florida. So I would say, realistically, if you wanted to call it a good season for me, and I looked at the talent profiles of every team, I've done all sorts of research, I say realistically, you have more talent than 8 of the guys on your roster. 4 of the teams, Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, who they brought in a whole bunch out of the transfer portal, and LSU are the only teams that probably have more talent than you do. Oh, Texas. I forgot about Texas. But Ole Miss did really well in the portal. They still don't have as much talent on a talent profile perspective, but they brought in a lot in the transfer portal. I would say 8-4 at the most. 7-5 is kind of where I'm at right now. But I mean, it could go off the rim. It could go 6-6, 5-7, 4-8. But being an optimistic Gator fan and trying to be a little bit fair too at the same time, I'll go 7-5.
If this team goes 7-5, they better be ranked. And if this team goes 8-4 and those 4 losses are competitive, they should probably be a playoff team.
I don't know. It depends on
depending on how things break. But if you properly evaluate the teams, if these teams are all as good as they're supposed to be, they're going to have a run of 11-1 and 10-2 teams that they're playing, and they go 8-4 when 9-3 and 10-2 is that playoff line. You go 8-4 and your losses are 27-23 to Texas and 31-24 to Georgia. I'm talking about staying competitive in those losses. So you can't just go out there and get waxed 4 times. And I know I'm talking maybe fantasy land here, but
8-4 possibly if the games are close, but I would think you would have to at least reach 9-3 to even make it to that playoff.
Yeah, I disagree.
All right, David.
Yeah, but okay. Hey, man.
We do appreciate you being here, and let people know where to find you and what you guys have going on.
Yeah, you can find us over there at High Top Sports. You can follow me at High Top Dave on Twitter. High Top Sports, we're going live tonight at 8:30. We're going to have on Nate Barbera from Florida Victorious. Then we're going to have a Locked On Canes guy on to discuss the Hurricanes. Then we'll have Keith Niebuhr on from On3 to discuss the recruiting visits there at Florida as well.
Very cool. Thanks for showing up for us. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, guys.
Hey, man, no problem. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
All right. We will keep it rolling here on the Miami show. And we do have a number of super chats that we need to catch up with. So we do appreciate all of your support. So let's get right to it. As is customary, Falconer X right out of the gate. Thank you so much, Falconer TRX. Super Sticker. And right after that, Falconer TRX. Only one Florida team will be undefeated Sunday.
I will say one Miami team because, yeah, I don't want that to get misconstrued, but I see what you're saying, man.
Who's UCF playing?
Fair point.
Mohammed Hussein, thank you so much for the contribution. We appreciate that. Cam, I don't care about conference. We can't lose to UF. I cannot stand the thought of those fans having a victory over us. Canes win 31-21.
You said everything. I couldn't say it better. Yes, absolutely, Mohammed. Can't lose to them. Miami wins. Let's get it.
Knox K94, thank you for being here. We always appreciate you. Mark and Cam, you guys are the bomb. $10 for you and Cam, and $10 for George to buy the dime bag he's going to need Saturday night.
Hey, man. Get
Well, Clemson chiming in here. BGPO Football Funk. What is good?
Hanging out, man. Glad to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely. And Leroy, thank you for being here. One of our faithfuls. Just win, baby. Take one from Al Davis. There it is.
Yes, sir.
And, there's a little synergy between the old Raiders and the U. Some
Absolutely.
swag connection there.
Again, they are the villains of the world in the NFL, and we are the villains of the world in college. I'm fine being the bad guy. You don't have to like me. And Florida people and whatever won't like us after we beat them on Saturday. I get it.
Falconer coming back with Graham Mertz. Will under Canes, not under pressure.
Okay. I'm with it.
And Falconer one more time here. My prediction, he's going Miami 31, Florida 17.
I think it's going to be, I would predict it to be a little closer than that. I do think that their season is going to not be great, but again, they do have talent and they're gonna score a little bit because I think that they're gonna get some stuff early in the season, early in the game. It's early in the season. There's not a big book of film on them right now. And rivalry games, man, y'all already know. We talk about it every year when we play Florida State, and it's intermittent because Florida's some punks and they want to play us every year. And I get it because we were beating their brains in, but it's one of those things where strange things happen. Everybody gets up. It's all those things that we say during Florida State week. It applies here also. So I do think it might be a little closer than that. But I've been on record for a good long time. Miami wins this game.
Falconer, Florida's schedule is brutal after week 1 loss.
Honestly, it might be the toughest college football schedule I've ever seen. Full stop. So, sorry to that team. Sorry to that man, Billy Napier, who I think is going to get fired before Halloween, but it is what it is. And to the point of this super chat, and thank you again, Falconer TRX, their tough schedule does not start in week 2. They got to see us. And I absolutely put us, Miami, this year, this iteration, in the conversation of the toughest teams that they're going to play. Those elite level caliber teams and organizations and programs that have blue chip talent throughout that are going to be playing for and challenging for championships this current season. It doesn't start later on. It starts with us, this very tough schedule.
I'm not going to be surprised if that prophetic statement comes true, but I've got to see it out of Miami. I'm not going to put them in the class of Texas and Georgia at this point.
Fair.
And Hurricane Central, this is our guy, Alex. Like I said on the preview show with Slim and Brennan, if Florida makes a bowl game, I'll jump into a brazen bull.
I have no idea what that is, but okay.
6-6. Okay. Billy Napier's not been able to do that against lighter schedules. And like I've said here and many other places, what is doubly brutal is that you wouldn't expect that these powerhouses on their schedule are going to change much from 24 to 2025, and they play the same conference schedule next year.
Right.
Muhammad, Cam, range day tomorrow. Gator targets.
Nice, man. Go ahead, do that. We used to put target or shapes of things when I went to band camp at Interlochen in Michigan. Archery was always my favorite excursion or like whatever thing for rec time. So we would put different shapes on the targets with what was it, a recurved bow or something like that? Yeah, it's not the Olympic standard because like those are crazy, but like one of the primitive bows. But like go do that. So I mean, obviously, I know that you're using a different kind of weaponry probably, but hey, go get your frustrations out and have some fun at the same time.
Now, YouTube has Miami in the top 3 teams Florida will play this year. Again, if it turns out that way, don't come after me. I'm not going to be surprised. So now I'm not saying that it can't come true, but I'm going to go Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss in some order.
Okay.
And then Miami, Tennessee, I'll put on that next line.
Okay.
As it stands right now, of course.
And I think that all sides are fair. I think YouTube are. And then your evaluation. Because again, we can disagree without being disagreeable. I don't think that you're saying, oh yeah, they're the worst team that Florida's going to play or anything. I think that's reasonable. And I look forward to the challenge of proving that. And well, not a spoiler alert because it's already up on the website. I finally wrote that piece about embracing expectations for Miami this year. So I embrace that, the expectation. I embrace that opportunity, to be one of those top teams. And you should read what I wrote about it on State of the Union.
And while we are stating predictions, might as well take one from the other side. This is a bit ridiculous, of course, but we expect no less from George.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even put out like a reasonable score. Like, I don't think I would have to look and see the last time that there was a score line of that ilk when these teams played. But hey, like either way, but whatever.
Sure. YouTube are best quarterbacks in college football: Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Kyron Drones, and a few more.
Kyron Drones on that top level. That seems like, to me, that's a bit of a stretch. I believe at the end of the season, and I was letting him go, Dave, on this thing, $8 million Nico from Tennessee is going to be in this conversation. Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee. I know that he's not right now, and it might not be, but I believe at the end of the year with him, with his talent, and what I believe he's going to do. So I would just put that out there, but in a similar way to Mark saying that he would need to see Miami actually live up to that billing and performance of what you said previously of being the third best or top 3 team that, is on this, death march of a schedule. I would need to see that from Kyron Drones before I'm buying that.
I tend to play the probabilities is the way I tend to project things. I was asked about Miller Moss the other day and talked about Miller Moss. Well, Miller Moss has played one football game at this level, and he looked amazing, but he's played one game. However, he's got a guy by the name of Lincoln Riley, who is coaching, developing, calling plays. So that's in his favor. He's got fleet receivers in his favor. So this history all says that he should turn out, and he was a high 4-star. But so there are no negatives. They're all just positives on his side and big question mark, but no negatives. So most likely Miller Moss is going to turn out to have a heck of a season. Most likely. That's what the probabilities tell us. The probabilities for Miami, in my view, is that this was the 35th to 40th best team in the country last year. They've added all these pieces and all these substantial productive players.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to say until further notice, they're kind of in that 15 range.
I think that's fair. Hurricane Central, I see you with the. I tend to be more aligned with your score line of 31-23 Miami win. As Mark is pulling the next comment, as after I mentioned it, I went to go look it up, and what it is are Cam Ward's rushing stats, specifically to look at the fumbles, because I knew that the number of fumbles was large. No, sir. Not
7. Right?
no.
That's what I heard.
So it is when he was at Incarnate Word, it was 12 and he lost 4. His first year at Washington State, it was 7 and he lost 2. And last year it was 12 and he lost 7.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's 12 and he lost 8. Excuse me.
Okay.
So that's 14 lost fumbles in 3 years, including 10 in the last 2 and 8 last year. Like, that's where, so now you go from having the 5 interceptions and like, okay, cool. But then you go from 5 to 13 turnovers. That's a lot. And I mean, like, he put the ball on the ground 12 times. Like, that's where, like, that is the thing that needs for me to get tightened up just a little bit. Not to, be a doom and gloom monger or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, that is a thing that has to get cut into, like, at most half, if not a third. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be I would like it to be as close to 0 as possible. Like, I could maybe live if it's, he's fumbled 3 times and loses 1 over the course of the season, because, like, things happen, but like 12, my guy, and lost 8, like that. Woof. So I just wanted to close the loop on that one, since it was in my brain after I mentioned it, and I wanted to have the concrete statistics to give to you guys. So that's a thing to be concerned about. And just, yeah, that's that, along with the secondary, are the things that give me pause in this game.
And if he was Lamar Jackson, I would tend to think that was from running around, escaping the pocket, that sort of thing. That seems to be him sitting in the pocket and not being as protective of the ball as he needs to be. Yeah.
It's a little bit of both, but yeah. Anyway, I mean, even Lamar Jackson wasn't putting it on the ground 12 times and losing 8 in a season. Like, yeah, that's, whew. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. All right. I think we've done enough damage. And that was a heck of a show with Dave coming in here and Cam and Dave sizing up the X's and O's. So if you've just joined us here in the last 5 or 10 minutes, which many of you have, head on back to the beginning of the show and catch what you missed. And we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I've got an 8 o'clock show with Zach Smith. And then at 9 o'clock, we got a Clemson, Georgia preview.
Nice.
To size that one up. And then, of course, there is the destination at State of the U.
Yeah, man. So we're rolling. Like I said, Marsh is back. So he already has a couple articles up and a recruit Q&A. We have your film forecast from Justin DeTavio, standard Thursday, content leading into a game week. I put up the piece about expectations. Mike McCoy put up a piece, looking for Miami guys. There's that and more already up and more coming for you. So please come on over and fan with us at stateoftheu.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports. Falconer TRX closing us out saying FSU is a fraud. I would love them to continue to be fraudulent when we play them. But yeah, like I said, we're already rolling with incredible, great content. Got more coming for you even through the rest of this week. Our roundtable season predictions, parts 1 and 2 tomorrow, and season record predictions coming up on Friday. We're rolling. We love it. You love it. Come on over and fan with us at stateoftheu.com. I will see you guys next week. I'm not going to keep Mark from his 8 o'clock show. Peace, love, hair grease, and go Canes.
Thanks, Cam. See everybody back here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern.